law does not necessarily explicitly provide for stepping aside of a police officer in case of such serious accusations. Probably an issue of interdiction, suspension, or resignation. But from your standpoint, is there any provision for stepping aside for someone like him?
Actually, there is no provision for stepping aside in our laws. What I'm aware is that the Constitution requires people, you remember he's a state officer, not just a public officer. And when you're a state officer, the obligation as a person who exercises power on public trust, which must be seen to be accountable and an enforcer of the Constitution, it means that Chapter 6 applied more to you on leadership and ethics, applies more to you than any other public servants like a clerk or somebody else who is a driver working, or a police constable working in the police force. The fact of the matter is, the moment in Kenya, because we've had the problem of abduction and lawful disappearances, the moment as a senior state officer you have been involved, implicated in these crimes that amounts to crimes against humanity under international law, your own position as the head of the Kenyan police became completely untenable. And therefore, under the constitutions of Kenya, the DIG has an obligation to tender his resignation. And at the very least, I think the president himself, as the appointing authority, has an obligation to expressly and publicly require the DIG as his appointee that, having been so directly implicated in the heinous crime that is a part of a series of crimes that have been ongoing on, that you cannot remain in that office, and the office must be occupied by a person who takes the Constitution seriously, because you can imagine this stepping aside, how long will it take? Because as the trial goes on, the predominant name, assuming that the IPOA will not have the confidence and integrity to say he must be charged with murder, even assuming he's not charged with murder, every day that this matter is on trial, we shall be hearing one important name, that one of Lagat. But as I conclude, there is an interesting story in the Standard. In the Standard, on the page that is talking about the resignation, the stepping aside of DIG Lagat, they are talking about the issue of Baby Pendo, whose suspects were freed on bail yesterday. The significance of this is important. These police officers who are implicated, and they are senior officers, in the killing of Baby Pendo, were even less implicated in the killing of Baby Pendo more than Lagat. So that the precedent is already there. That if the senior officers in the case of Baby Pendo are facing murder charges, what about a scenario where, as DIG boss, you make what appears to be an unlawful accusation, which is not reported anywhere, but more importantly, you get your friend and colleague, the DCI, Amin, to go and carry what is actually an abduction under the guise of arrest. Then on the very day that he arrives here, according to the confession of Mukwana yesterday, you have already arranged how he will be taught a lesson. This teaching of a lesson leads to death. This is murder most foul, as you can ever imagine.
The Standard, Bwana Mutambu, demands more than just stepping aside. Wakili says there's no provision for stepping aside even. Yet in Kenya, we've seen that very senior officials have even claimed publicly that they'd rather die than resign. Why is it so hard